Skullcrusher is arguably the best epic champion in Raid Shadow Legends for taking on the clan boss. If you pull one and you currently do not have a counterattack champion, then Skullcrusher will be game changing for you. Hey YouTube, how's it going there? This is Yasuo here, and today I'll be going over Skullcrusher. He is one of the only 3 champions in the entire game that can place a AoE counterattack buff on your team. In addition to that, there are a lot of champions that can be built around Skullcrusher's kit. Let us jump into a clan boss battle, and also for today, I'll be showcasing my double Skullcrusher team. However, keep this in mind, you do not need 2 Skullcrushers. Having just one is extremely efficient and game changing. So while the clan boss battle is going on in the background, I'll be going over Skullcrusher's kit. On his A1, he attacks one enemy and places a health reduction debuff on the target if the target has lower defense than Skullcrusher. However, when using Skullcrusher in the clan boss, most players will probably not want this debuff to land on the clan boss. And this is mainly because the clan boss doesn't heal itself. And also, you want to save your debuff space for more usable debuffs. So when building Skullcrusher, you want to keep your accuracy on Skullcrusher very low so that he has a high chance of not landing the debuff. Also, Skullcrusher's A1 can hit quite hard, and when you book the skill, it will increase Skullcrusher's A1 damage by 20%. So I do recommend booking Skullcrusher. His A2 is what Skullcrusher is heavily used for. It puts up a 50% ally protection and a counterattack buff on your team except for himself. And he places a unkillable buff on himself instead. What most people would use this ability for is for the ally protection and counterattack buff. However, there are some teams that are built around unkillable that would take advantage of Skullcrusher's unkillable buff. But for now, we're going to focus on the ally protection and counterattack buff that is placed on your team. This ability is what makes Skullcrusher so powerful. When he puts up the ally protection, he is basically tanking your team's damage. So because Skullcrusher is a defensive-based champion, then he is able to survive for a long period of time. The counterattack buff that is placed on your team will allow your team to counterattack for 2 turns. So you want Skullcrusher to be the slowest champion on the team, and you want to use this ability right before the clan boss's first AoE attack, also known as the beginning of the clan boss attack cycle. You want to use it here because basically the clan boss attacks all of your champions. So because of the buff, your team will counterattack back. Having Skullcrusher to move last in your team will give your team the full benefit of the 2-turn counterattack buff. His passive is also really powerful. Skullcrusher decreases the duration of all debuffs on himself by 1 turn at the start of each turn. So if he takes the stun hit, then he will remove the stun at the beginning of his turn. So basically he won't lose a turn. However, because of how stun works, the cooldown on his skills will not drop. When you get hit with a stun, your cooldowns do not drop. Skullcrusher won't lose the turn, but the cooldowns of the skills will not drop. Meaning that if you have his A2 booked down to a 3-turn cooldown, and if you use his A2 at the beginning of the clan boss's attack cycle, and the clan boss targets Skullcrusher with a stun, then the cooldown of his A2 will not be available during the beginning of the clan boss attack cycle where you want to use his A2. The reason why I'm covering this is because in the later rounds, Skullcrusher will take a beating. If he can't heal himself back up, then the clan boss will start to target the champion with the most life lost. In most cases, it will be Skullcrusher, because he absorbs so much damage from the ally protection. and sometimes the lifesteal gears won't be able to heal himself back fully. Now, let's talk about the gearing. For his gears, I have Skullcrusher in lifesteal and speed set. Lifesteal is a must on Skullcrusher. He will be taking a beating, and you need this set on him so that he can heal himself back. On my Skullcrusher, I geared him with critical rate percentage gloves, defense percentage chestplate, and defense percentage boots. I have HP ring, defense amulet, and defense banner on him. Let's take a look at his stats. I have 48k HP, 1.5k attack, 4.7k defense, 172 speed, 91% critical rate, 117% critical damage, and for resistance and accuracy, we don't really care about that. So that could be whatever it is. However, keep your accuracy as low as possible. When building Skullcrusher, you want to build him with a balance of HP and defense. You don't want to just build only just defense, because when Skullcrusher puts up his ally protection, he'll be absorbing a lot of your team's damage. If his HP is too low, even with a lot of defense, he'll end up dying. At the same time too, you want enough defense on Skullcrusher so that he can survive being the tank. Also, his A1 damage scales off of his defensive stats. A good number that I try to aim for when building Skullcrusher is to get his HP to at least 40k and to get 4k defense on him. So, you keep hearing the statement that Skullcrusher takes a beating, and yes, he really does. So after absorbing the damage from the ally protection, he really needs to be able to damage the clan boss and be able to heal himself back up during his turn. In order to do this, he needs to put out damage with his A1. To get him to do damage, of course, you will be needing the defensive stats because his damage scales off of defense. And you need crit rate and crit damage. I always recommend that players move towards increasing the crit percentage rate on Skullcrusher. This can either be from gearing Skullcrusher with critical percentage rate gloves, like how I geared mine, or you can get it from the substats of your gears. The importance of having high critical rate on Skullcrusher is because it allows Skullcrusher more percentage to hit harder, which allows him to heal back more life because of the crits. If you don't have high critical rate on him, then you would need to depend on proccing his War Master mastery in order to gain life. And in the early rounds, this doesn't matter much, but once you go into the later rounds, you need him to be able to heal back up. So I'll talk about the mastery setup on Skullcrusher. For masteries, I went with both offense and defensive tree. On the offense tree, I went straight down and grabbed War Master. And you need this mastery on Skullcrusher. This mastery has a 60% chance of inflicting bonus damage when attacking, and your lifesteal will heal off of this damage, and that's very important to know. Another mastery that I really like on Skullcrusher, and I really recommend that you take it, is Grim Resolve. This is because Skullcrusher is often under 50% HP. This will increase his damage inflicted by 5% when attacking under 50% HP. That extra 5% damage means more lifesteal for Skullcrusher. For defensive mastery, I grab both of the counterattack mastery. This will help Skullcrusher because he doesn't put counterattack on himself. The counterattack mastery will also be very clutch in the later rounds because every counterattack that Skullcrusher does will help him heal himself back up. Alright, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to speed up this clan boss battle by doubling it, and that's because this clan boss battle did last a very long time. I believe it was like a 20-minute battle on auto. And before I forget, please like the video and subscribe to my channel, and if you have any questions for me, then please let me know in the comments below. So throughout this video so far, a lot of what I recommended when using Skullcrusher is to gear Skullcrusher towards getting his health back up. He tanks for your team, and he takes a real beating for tanking. The longer he survives, the longer your clan boss battle will be. So it's very important to build him so that he can sustain himself. Okay, now let's talk about my double Skullcrusher team. What I'm doing here is that I want each of my Skullcrusher to tank each of the AoE attacks from the clan boss. Because Skullcrusher puts unkillable on itself, then in the later rounds, whichever Skullcrusher tanks the AoE attack, then that Skullcrusher will not end up dying because they have unkillable on. However, other champions can die, but remember that they do have ally protection on, so it will take a long time before the clan boss can actually start killing them. So it works like this. Before the clan boss uses the A2, which is the first AoE attack, what you want to do is you want your faster Skullcrusher to put out counterattack and ally protection in preparation to tank the clan boss's first AoE attack. The faster Skullcrusher will never die during this time because it'll put unkillable on itself. The slower Skullcrusher needs to save that A2 and not put up that counterattack and ally protection buff. After the clan boss's first AoE attack, then your team counters. And then when it comes to your turn, your slower Skullcrusher puts up the counterattack and ally protection buff in preparation to tank the second AoE attack. And then the slower Skullcrusher puts unkillable on itself, meaning it will never die. So keep this in mind. Your first Skullcrusher has taken a beating for tanking that first AoE attack. Now, in order to help that first Skullcrusher survive, the second Skullcrusher will put up that ally protection. It helps absorb some of that damage that the damaged Skullcrusher has taken, and it'll help that Skullcrusher survive for quite some time. And then the clan boss will use its second AoE, and then your team counters. And then right before the clan boss uses its stun attack, then you want to have like Sepulcher, Sentinel put up the block debuff and increase defense, or you want a champion on your team that can prevent the clan boss from stunning your champions. And then of course the cycle repeats itself on auto. For this to work, you do need a champion that can put up a block debuff or someone that can remove the stun before it gets to the turn of the champion that took the stun hit. Otherwise, the stun will ruin the rotation because the stun will block one turn of the cooldown abilities. And if that's a Skullcrusher, it's going to ruin the entire rotation. If you're interested in my speed tuning, then here's what I'm running for speed. I have Sepulcher Sentinel at 235 speed, and that allows Sepulcher to move 4 turns to the clan boss's 3 turn. The speed tuning also works on Ultra Nightmare. Rosin Scarhide is at 178 speed. Bulwark is at 174 speed. Skullcrusher is at 173 speed, and my slower Skullcrusher is at 172 speed. Alright, and that's all I have for today. If you have any questions for me or any comments for me, then please let me know in the comment section below. And thank you very much for watching this video for this long. I really appreciate all of you who watched this video for this long, and thank you very much for that. And don't forget to like my video and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.